There is something about money that no one teaches us. It's not in universities, nor in financial news. It's in silences, in unspoken fears, in choices we make alone and don't always know how to explain. This video is based on the book, The Psychology of Money, by Morgan Housel. But it's not a technical summary. It's an invitation to reflect on what lies behind every financial decision you have ever made. Here we're not going to talk about spreadsheets. We're going to talk about behavior, emotions, and what is not seen. Because money is not just math. It's memory. It's history. It's emotional survival. So, if you seek financial freedom without giving up lightness, soul, and awareness, this channel is for you. Subscribe now, turn on the notification bell, already leave your like, and stay with us until the end. Chapter 1. Those who know little, but behave well, can have everything. Morgan Housel opens the book with a disconcerting truth. Financial success is not an exact science. It's an emotional skill. This sentence changes everything. Because it shows that you don't need to be brilliant, have a high IQ, or work on Wall Street to prosper. What really matters is how you behave with money. And there's no more powerful example of this than the story of Ronald Read. An ordinary man, janitor, gas station attendant. He never had a high salary. He was never in the spotlight for anything. But when he passed away, he left over $8 million accumulated. How did he do it? He lived below his means. He invested in a simple way. And above all, he had patience. Ronald Read wasn't lucky. He had time and constancy. He let compound interest work for him while the world chased after appearing wealthy. Most people believe that to get rich, you need to make a big investment or inherit a fortune. But true wealth is made of small good choices repeated over a long period of time. The book reminds us that the biggest difference for investors like Warren Buffett is not just talent, but time. Buffett started investing at 10 years old. And over 80% of his fortune was accumulated after the age of 60. That is compounding. That is patience. And what if the key is not to run more, but to endure longer? If you have ever felt insecure for not knowing everything about finances, remember this story and share this video with a friend who also needs this confirmation. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be consistent. Chapter 2. The silent price of wealth. Are you willing to pay? Every achievement requires a cost. And with money, this cost is not always visible. You look at a successful person and see the result. But you don't see the years of waiting, the months of doubt, the days when they thought about giving up. Morgan Housel calls this the price of wealth. And it is a price that is not always paid with money. Sometimes it is paid in terms of patience, anxiety, sleepless nights. Let's be honest. Are you willing to see your investment account drop by 30% in a month? Would you be at peace anyway? Or would you sell everything driven by fear? It's easy to talk about investing. It's hard to stay invested when the numbers are in the red and your mind screams for security. Morgan gives a real example. If you had invested in the S&P 500 in the 80s, you would have seen your portfolio drop by 50% at times. Still, in the long run, you would have accumulated wealth. But few can pay this price. 'Cause it's an emotional price. Invisible. Lonely. Just like you don't expect to build a healthy body without pain, without exercise. Don't expect to get rich without facing the discomfort of seeing your investments fluctuate. Sometimes, what separates those who thrive from those who stagnate is simply the ability to weather the storm without abandoning the ship. If you have ever been in a moment where you thought about giving up on investing or saving, leave an "I understand" here in the comments. Your experience can support other people who are also on this journey. Chapter 3. The vicious cycle of "it's never enough." There is a restlessness that silently corrodes the peace of many people. The feeling that, no matter how much one has, it is never sufficient. You achieve something, a raise, a trip, a new house, and for a few days it seems like the pinnacle. But soon after, everything loses its shine, because someone next to you has more, did more, showed more, Morgan Housel explains how the financial system and human nature itself fuel this cycle. Capitalism generates wealth, indeed, but it also generates constant comparisons. And unknowingly you stop living what you have to chase what others show. In the book, he brings a real example. Imagine someone who earns $2 million in bonuses. This person is happy until finding out that their colleague earned $2,001,000. And suddenly, enough turns into frustration. This kind of comparison turns healthy ambition into a bottomless pit, where desire never ceases, and gratitude turns into scarcity. Never risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. That is the central reflection of this chapter. It is not worth exchanging your peace, your health, or your real connections for one more step on a never-ending staircase. And you, have you ever fallen into this silent trap, thinking that what you have is not enough just because you saw someone with more? If this has happened to you, comment below. I deserve to feel sufficient. Let's reinforce this truth together. Chapter 4. When what seems crazy is actually logical. Sometimes we judge other people's financial decisions harshly. How can she spend so much on clothes? Why does he put money under the mattress? How can anyone still play the lottery? But what we forget is that each person sees money through the scars they carry. Morgan Housel reminds us, what seems insane to you may be absolutely rational to someone else. Because everyone comes from a different childhood with traumas, lacks parents who taught, or didn't teach, how to deal with money. He uses the example of lottery tickets. The poorest families in the United States spend, proportionally, over 4 times the amount that the richest families spend on bets. While 1/3 of these households cannot save $400 for an emergency. Seems absurd. Until you put yourself in the shoes of these people. They live without a margin. They have no savings, no prospect. And for many of them, the lottery ticket is not a game. It is the only hope of changing their lives. When you understand this, you realize that judging someone's financial behavior is like judging the pain of a body you have never inhabited. And this lesson is worth gold. Do not copy portfolios of people who live in a completely different reality from yours. Do not take advice from those who do not feel the weight of your choices. And most importantly, do not try to fit into strategies that do not fit your soul. Think with me. Have you ever felt ashamed of how you deal with money? Have you been afraid of seeming uninformed or wrong? Maybe it wasn't a mistake. Maybe it was just your way of surviving. Accept that you are learning to understand yourself. And understanding yourself is the first step to any financial transformation. Chapter 5. The dance between luck and risk. You can do everything right. Plan, study, dedicate yourself. And still, things may not go as expected. This doesn't mean you made a mistake. It means there is something we hardly ever take into account when it comes to money. The role of luck and risk. Morgan Housel shows us this with a real story. Bill Gates studied at the only school in the United States with a computer in 1968. This gave him a light-year advantage over any other teenager at the time. It was luck. Kent Evans, his equally intelligent and visionary friend, died before graduating in an accident. That was risk. Life is made up of this unstable balance between what we can control and what crosses our path. And money, of course, is also. The question is not only what to do to be successful. The more honest question would be, am I prepared for what may escape my control? You can control the rudder, but not the wind. The book teaches us that understanding this is essential to make financial decisions with more compassion, with more humility, and with less guilt. Sometimes success comes. Other times, even with all effort, it slips away. And that's okay. Now take a minute and reflect. Are you being too hard on yourself for something that might have been just an external factor, a stronger tide, an unexpected condition? If so, if this brought you clarity or helped you relieve an old guilt, write in the comments. I forgive myself and move on with wisdom. Chapter 6. Why pessimism seems smarter than hope. Imagine if I say, the market is going to fall, the economy is going to collapse, we are about to enter a new crisis. You'd probably pay attention, maybe even get a chill. Now if I said, things are improving, the world is advancing, and technology has generated real solutions to old problems, you might just shrug. Why does this happen? Because our brain, programmed to survive, reacts more strongly to fear than hope. Morgan Housel explains. Pessimism sounds smarter. Optimism often seems naive. But he remembers, the world has been improving. Slowly, but it has. Medicine is saving more lives than ever. Global poverty has dropped dramatically in recent decades. Children are living longer. Women are studying more. Technology is advancing. However, progress is slow and silent. On the other hand, disaster strikes quickly and loudly. That's why tragedies paralyze us while improvements go unnoticed. But if we want to have a healthy relationship with money and with life, we need to educate our eyes to see beyond the catastrophe. And more than that, we need to train our minds to sustain hope even when the world seems to pull us towards fear. And you? Have you been feeding fear or confidence? Scarcity or possibility? Which voices have you let dominate your thoughts? If you want to cultivate a lighter, more confident and sensible view on money and the future, subscribe to the channel now. Chapter 7. True wealth is what you choose not to show. The world has taught you that being rich is to show. Show trips, show cars, show jewelry, bags, accomplishments. Show that you have succeeded. But true wealth, the one that sustains, protects, and calms, is unseen. Morgan Housel writes accurately. Wealth is what you don't see. It's the car that wasn't bought, the trip that was postponed, the upgrade that was declined. Because real wealth is not what appears in your lifestyle. It's what you hold in silence, with security and autonomy. It's the money that is still there. What you didn't spend to impress. People who have a high standard of living are not always prosperous. Many are in debt, living on the edge to maintain appearances. Meanwhile, silent individuals accumulate wealth discreetly. They don't seek attention, but they have choices. They don't need to prove anything because they know what they have built. And this perfectly connects with what we believe here. A soft lifestyle with conscious choices, aligned with a wealthy mindset. It's the lightness of not needing to rush. It's the silence of those who care. It's the security of those who know that less noise can mean more freedom. And here is the key. You will only be truly wealthy when you no longer feel the need to appear. Have you ever spent money just to not seem less? How many times have you felt pressured to show what you actually wanted to keep? From now on, always remember the power of self-control and conscious choice, and that true wealth should be your project. Chapter 8. Time. The greatest dividend money can pay you. Have you ever stopped to think that perhaps the greatest luxury in life is not a new car, nor a mansion, nor a stuffed bank account, but simply having time? Morgan Housel states that the true purpose of money should be this: to give you control over your time, to do what you want when you want with whom you love, and for as long as you want. But most people get lost along the way. They work more, earn more, and live less. Time slips through their fingers because the more money comes in, the more commitments arise to keep up with. And so, many trade life's most precious asset for a standard that never satisfies. The proposal of our channel, and the essence of this chapter, is exactly the opposite. We believe in a lifestyle that values rhythm, presence, care. In a mindset that understands that financial freedom is not about having more. It's about needing less to live better. It's the soft life we talk about so much here. The slowed down, intentional life that is not an escape from wealth, but rather the wisest way to preserve it. Chapter 9. Before anything else, be prepared. Don't guess. If there's one thing life and the financial market always teach us is that no one can predict the future. Crises happen, wars arise, pandemics appear, oscillations come without warning. What to do then? Morgan Housel answers with simplicity and clarity. Stop trying to predict. Learn to prepare. And this applies to everything. Your work, your investments, your personal finances. Preparation is a kind of silent wisdom. It allows you to stay calm when the world panics. Gives you a margin of safety. Gives you time. Gives you peace. The author brings a powerful piece of information. If you had invested in the S&P 500 in the last 20 years, but had missed only the top 4 days of growth, your profits would have almost halved. In other words, trying to predict the right time to enter or exit can be very costly. Therefore, instead of chasing the next great tip, focus on building a strong foundation, an emergency fund, simple plan, stable behavior. This is a way of life that directly relates to what we cultivate here. A tranquil, planned life with room to breathe. Because in the end, those who live lightly are those who prepare consciously. And you? Have you been trying to guess the future? Or have you been preparing your present calmly and consistently? Chapter 10. The last step. Knowing when to say, I have enough. There is an almost invisible trap in modern financial life. The feeling that we are always one step behind. Even when we get there, the there moves elsewhere. Morgan Housel calls this the hedonic treadmill. It's when the standard goes up, but satisfaction stays in the same place. You achieve but do not feel fulfilled. You grow but keep seeking more, and more, and more. That's why, even with high incomes, many feel empty. Because true peace does not come from having everything, but from recognizing that you don't need everything. The book shows us that many of the most serious financial mistakes were made by people who already had enough but couldn't stop. They wanted just a little more. And in that little more, they lost everything. Therefore, perhaps the greatest sign of maturity is knowing when to say, enough. Knowing that it's okay to live with less than you could have. And that this choice is not a sacrifice. It is an act of wisdom. Here on our channel, we strongly believe in that. We believe that true luxury is to sleep peacefully, to have time for the people you love, to sit on the porch, have a hot coffee, and think, I don't need to prove anything to anyone. And do you know what your enough is? Have you ever stopped to think that maybe you have already reached where your heart needed to be? Remember, living in balance is not about having less. It's about having what really matters. In conclusion, the psychology of money is actually the psychology of life. And after everything we've seen here about patience, choices, time, comparisons, risk, optimism, and awareness, it's clear that money is not the center. The center has always been you. How you take care, how you react, how you step back, how you move forward, how you feel. The psychology of money, as Morgan Housel shows us, is just a lens to see what really matters. Our values, our limits, our fears, and the silent decisions that define our freedom. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this. You don't need much. You need clarity about what is enough for you. And that doesn't mean accepting crumbs, settling for little, or giving up on big dreams. On the contrary, it means living lightly and wisely as you walk towards your dreams. It's knowing that you can aim for the best, but without losing yourself trying to prove your worth through what you possess. Knowing what is enough is one of the most mature forms of wealth. It is the balance point between gratitude and ambition, between presence and future vision. Here on the Soft Life Rich Mindset channel, we wholeheartedly believe in this. That prosperity doesn't need to be loud. That wealth can reside in silence. That lightness and abundance can and should walk hand in hand. If this video resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Leave your comment down below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is the moment. Thank you for staying until the end. We'll see you in the next video.